Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this Ask the Expert session for our RBVM with Derek Illum. So on the agenda today, we will hear from Derek. Will start with an introduction. Then he will answer common questions around RBVM. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start. And Derek, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you to do your introduction, and then with your questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So happy to be here, share Ivanti neurons for risk-based vulnerability management with you guys. My name is Derek Illum. I've been at Ivanti over 7 years now. Came from the support side. I started at Ivanti on the support side using our patching products and picked up the RBVM solution when that was acquired a few years ago. So happy to help out and show you guys what we have with the RBVM solution. Okay, so we'll just go through a few of these slides, just kind of what RBVM is, how it works, that kind of thing. And then we'll get into the actual meat and bring this to life for you. So as part of a vulnerability management solution that many companies have, they have to go through and find the vulnerabilities, scan for them, collect that information, do the day-to-day to prep the data, to prep the patch, to prep all of that information, try and prioritize it, sort which ones that they want to deploy, and then go through and try and remediate those. And then, of course, we've got a report on it as well. What this RBVM does is it takes all of that information, it does some of this for you. So it will bring that data in, and I'll show you a better view in the next couple of slides of how that works, but bring that data in and do a lot of this manual tasks for you, because we want to automate things as much as possible. We've got the tools to do it, so we might as well be able to do it. So do all that for you. We like to take an approach from Gartner, our trusted third party, and they say, don't patch everything. There are so many vulnerabilities, and I'll give you a view into how many vulnerabilities, but focus on what's exploitable. And when you do this risk-based vulnerability approach, focusing and prioritizing by risk, then you suffer 80% less on the breaches. Vulnerabilities, like I said, there's a lot of vulnerabilities. So, this is as of the last metric I took in April, around 312,000. Only 21% of those are actually patchable. So there's no reason to go through and try and chase your tail and try and do everything at once. Focus on the 65,000 that are patchable, and that's where you should start. But we want to take it another couple layers deeper to try and help prioritize and sort things out, to try and focus our efforts to get the biggest bang for our buck. So we're looking at the weaponized vulnerabilities, and similar to the total, there's only 24% of those that are actually patchable. If we look at the more dangerous ones that have the remote code execution and the privilege escalation, those are, there's 12,000 of those, but only 2,400 are patchable. So where we want to start our focused efforts is we want to start at what's on the top of most people's mind, tied to ransomware. We want to focus on those, and then also the ones that are trending. So when I say trending, I mean what we're doing is we're monitoring vulnerabilities, those 312, and we're looking to see what's trending, what's actually actively being exploited in the last 30 days, and surfacing that to customers so they have an idea on where they should start, what attackers are actively looking at and utilizing. And then work your way up to what's tied to ransomware and then the dangerous capabilities up the ladder. Okay. So RBVM, risk-based vulnerability management, this is what it does. We take the output of your existing scanner. So your Rapid7, Tenable, Qualys, those big three. We can also take, and that's on the infrastructure side, we can also take in application and code scanners. So if you're doing your own development, we can take that data in from those vulnerability scanners and use it in this tool. So manual pen testing, if you're doing pen testing, or if you have manual uploads from spreadsheets that a lot of companies, when they're trying to formalize their vulnerability management solution, they're trying to, report on it. So this is a way to get all of that data from all of these different solutions into one tool. So once we get the information in, then we can put some context to it, and we can categorize it. We can assign some scoring. So we've got this vulnerability risk rating that that I'll show you how that's made up and what exactly goes into that. But that helps us score these and categorize them to help prioritize and focus our efforts. The vulnerability knowledge base down in the bottom, that's where we're getting a lot of this data from. So it's not just sourced from Ivanti. We're actually getting it from over 100 different sources to give you a full picture on the different vulnerabilities and issues there. So once we have it in the tool, we've got that done. Of course, we want to automate it. We're going to apply some playbooks and workflows so that if you have a vulnerability that comes in, a finding on a machine, then we can apply it to that machine to a group, or we can tag it, use the existing tags inside of the scanners, that kind of thing. So we want to be able to organize our data and label it so that you understand it's your data. And then from there, of course, we want to prioritize it and get that remediated as quickly as possible. We do have to, of course, reply or create those dashboards and reports. So, and then if we need to, we can integrate that with the existing incident management solution. So you've got a full audit trail type of thing. Other things we can integrate with this tool, we can push information to a SIEM source server, and then this platform I'm going to show you today is entirely API driven. So anything you can do in the API, you can do in the web console. But of course, we want to be able to take that information after we prioritize it and push it off into an Ivanti solution for patch management. There are ways that you can get this information into other tools if they have a CVE import. All of our on-premise solutions that do patching have a way to pull in CVEs and match those up to an existing patch. Okay. So just a few of the benefits we've got. I'll show you what the RS3 score is and how that's made up, but it's just a better way to quantify the overall risk to the environment. We have some customers that use this tool to negotiate their cyber insurance. So they can get a lower rate because they can prove, they can actually quantify, hey, our risk is low, give us a better rate type of thing, okay? Of course, we've got to be able to remediate our findings and get some custom data. We can pull that pen testing data in, like I said. But truly, this is just a way to do a full end-to-end vulnerability management process, from finding to remediating to closing that loop and showing that it's actually been remediated. And then, of course, we've got to be able to report on it. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to dive into the demo here. In here to the dashboards, and I'm actually going to start on the integration page. So we've got automation here. We've got some existing integrations into the Ivanti solutions to, push information to service management and also to patch management, that kind of thing. But you can see I've got some network scanners. I can pull in existing data from many different tools and even manual uploads if I wanted to upload, say, a CSV or something like that. But application data, I can pull that application data in as well, integrate it with a ticketing system. So it's not just an Ivanti ticketing system. We've got ServiceNow and Jira. Asset management, compliance, and of course, patch management. So this tool is built with persona-based dashboards. So I'm going to start here on the executive dashboard. We've got the KPIs across the top. Any one of these three dots, you can interact with that particular KPI. So I've got lots of different metrics. Whatever is important to you, I'm sure you can find something inside of here and actually, show it at a quick high level when you're inside of the tool. If I want to isolate it down to, specifically the host or the application, I can switch that. But by default, it's usually set to the host and app. Okay. We do have filters that drive some of these widgets. Just like with the KPIs, you can interact with these and you can pull in any filter that we've created, a system filter, specific to a certain vulnerability, or just a Patch Tuesday type of report. With the system filters, we try and create them as quickly as possible. So when a new vulnerability comes out, we'll usually have a system filter created within 24 hours, which is usually a lot quicker than the scanning vendors have their scanning tools available. Okay, so we're going to look at the RS3 score here. We'll look at the methodology. We'll zoom in on this a little bit. So this is a 300 to 850 score, so it's kind of similar to a credit score, but that's about where the similarities stop. But this scoring takes into several different aspects to come up with this. Was there a question? Okay. So the vulnerability risk rating. So this is where we're getting some of the threat information, CVE data, the NVD, threats and vulnerabilities. Just to give you a better context on the information for that particular vulnerability. Then we'll add in the accessibility. So this is looking at, is this asset an internal or external asset? The vulnerability knowledge base, this is where we're seeing the different exploits. Is it exploited? How is it exploited? Is it malware, RCE, PE, that kind of thing? And then asset criticality, this is unique because it's giving you the opportunity as the customer to go in and assign a criticality to that specific asset. So it's a 1 through 5 scale, 5 being the most critical, and something that's in a data center externally facing would be a 5, and something in a conference room would be closer to a 1, that type of thing. So all that information makes up the score that we can assign to a particular group. We can assign it to an asset and then give you an overall score for the entire organization. So we can give you that as on the infrastructure side, but then also on the application side as well if you're doing new applications. Zoom back out here. Okay, so you can see I've got an RS3 score for this entire environment. It is broken down by infrastructure and applications. I'll show you here in just a second. This is actually separated out. So if you have some exclusions that you're accepting some risks for whatever reason, the vendor doesn't have a patch, or you want to be able to separate that out and adjust for that, accept that risk. You've got that as well. So there are other widgets on this dashboard. So we've got a trend over time, so you can see where you are just at a glance, and you can see where the breakdown is on the right as far as which threat filter. And then we've got these findings funnels. So this is set by prioritization. So you can see in this environment, I've got a total of 15,000 assets broken down by the different threat filters. So critical, high, medium, low. And each one of these different filters just shows you what each category has. So you can see from my beginning slides, I've got some trending critical data in this environment. So I would want to be able to remediate these as quickly as possible. And of course, I can click on it and go directly to those hosts and take care of those, try and remediate those. On the weaponization funnel here, I've got similar threat filters, but this is just showing you the unique findings and CVEs for those assets that are trending, and even the number of fixes in that category. Okay. Other information down here below. Remember we talked about the asset criticalities, so it's broken down to 1 through 5, and the RS3 score, so you can see where most of the data is, most of the assets sit at a glance. And then the unique findings, this is just the top 50. So the highest number of assets need this particular finding resolved. Okay. So some of the other dashboards we've got, I'm just going to touch on prioritization. So you can see I've got the same KPIs across the top or something similar they're focused on the prioritization. I could do that. These funnels are unique, so I can see where my open findings are on that threat filter context. And as things get closed out, as these findings get closed out, I can see where, and this is test data, so that's why it's all zeros, but I can see exactly where this information is and where I'm spending most of my time. So if my trending data is still is 0, but I've got a high number of weaponized that have been resolved, then I can see that I'm not focusing in on what's truly should be prioritized and actually remediated. Okay. Other things we've got on here, just a different way of looking at some of these, some of the information, different ways looking at seeing what's ingested versus what's been remediated. Like I said, this is test data, so I've got data coming in, but nobody's working on it, that kind of thing. Okay. Okay, and then the last dashboard here before I go into some other information is we've got the ransomware. So this doesn't mean that you have ransomware. This is just looking at the susceptibility to in your environment to ransomware. So similar threat filters, but the focus is ransomware. But with the filters that we've got, you could look at any information from one of the other dashboards and focus it in on ransomware and go from there. Okay. If you're focused in on looking at a particular ransomware family, this is broken down by the number of CVEs and the number of assets that are actually impacted. So I can see that this Cerber ransomware family is what I've got to remediate the most out of my environment, but I've got a couple of these other family ones in here as well. Okay. And then, of course, just other ways of looking at the data, the number of ransomware families, affected groups, that kind of thing. So this filter here, this widget is actually looking at my group view. So I can see at a glance which groups that I've created have the highest number of CVEs and findings, that kind of thing. We do have a group dashboard. And I can group my machines any way I want. You can do it by overall just Windows, Linux. You can do it by geolocation. You can create, however you group them now, you could group them in here. And machines can be a part of multiple groups, so it doesn't matter. Okay. So let's look at our prioritization funnel here. Oh, sorry, I needed to go to executive. So I'm going to take this particular one, and we will just look at all of these hosts. So I'm focused on the prioritization, but what I can do is I can go over here and look at asset criticality, and I can sort those. I can sort it by RS3 if I wanted to find that information. If I want to have multiple scanners, I can filter out those, or even pull in, hey, I want to look specifically at everything that has ransomware and focus in on those. Okay. The good thing is you can create your own filters. So we do have a user filters along with our system filters that I showed you on the executive dashboard. So let's look at one of these. It's actually looking at the host. I wanted to look at the findings. Okay, so I'm going to look at one of these findings here, and I can click on the actual finding. It shows me the machine that it's found on, the port information. But what I want to look at is some of the information that we can pull up and show just at a glance here. Is we've got the RVRR score, and the last time it was updated. I can see the severity information that came from the scanner. So this is a critical, but from the actual scanner, it's only reporting it as a medium. Okay. If I look at the history, we've got a full audit history on these. So I can see when it was ingested, what's happened to it. I can see that the finding was detected from a scan. It was sent to an incident. It was created a few times, multiple people at different times. But I've got that full audit trail of everything that happens to that particular vulnerability. Okay, there's a ton more information down here, and I do see a question. Felix?
Yeah, thank you, Derek. The VRR is a score that is somewhat calculated from the CVSS scoring, or how exactly is the VRR calculated?
Yeah, so we do take the CVSS as a base, but then we're layering in all the other information from the vulnerability knowledge base and taking in information that the CVSS doesn't account for. So is it exploited? How is it exploited? That kind of thing, and coming up with that score. So the VRR is a dynamic score, so it does change as the vulnerability changes.
Okay, and it also changes on part of the distribution inside of the environment, or is that not in fed back into the VRR scoring? So if I say I have 1,000 clients have a specific CVE, for example, and then I have patched 900 of those, will the VRR score go down, or will this not affect the VRR?
Yeah, it doesn't affect the VRR if the threat changes on the actual vulnerability. So say the CVSS score comes out and it's only like a 5. It's not necessarily something that's externally facing, but then they find out later that you can, remote code execution it. It doesn't require any privileges, that kind of thing. Then we would modify it and update it to a 10, and it would stay at a 10 for the rest of its life, unless something changes, But yeah, It is a dynamic score. Mm-hmm.
But the actual environment is not feeding back into the VRR score. It's just the CVE and the CVE databases information that you are
Correct.
taking into the scoring. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And the other threat feeds that we have. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So other information we have down here. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. We can see how long the threat's been there. We do have an SLA dashboard and information and even automation that you can apply to it. So if you have to adhere to SLAs, we can add those in and track those for you. We've got information on the CVE itself, and I can see, if I wanted to send this to a particular patch group in the Ivanti neurons for patch management, I could do that. Any dependencies, any articles, the actual score, the RS3 score for that particular asset. Looks like this is an external one. I'm not sure why it's a 1 if it's external, but it's test data, so we're good. Group information. So you can see some of these are actually red, some of them are green. So any of them that are red, I don't have access to view those. So we do have some scoping that we can do on a user level. So if you've got a server team or workstation team and you don't want them to have access to the other servers if they're in the workstation team, then you can deny those access and they can only see what they're supposed to see. Okay. I can see this came from the Nessus scanner, some possible solutions. I've got this sent to a ticket, so I've got the status that anytime that ticket gets updated on the Ivanti ITSM, then it would be updated inside of here, so I don't have to go to another solution to look at it. Something interesting and unique to our product is this findings footprint. So I can see how many other machines have this particular vulnerability in it as well. Okay. So if I was to take a risk-based approach and send this information to, I could send this to information to the Ivanti neurons for patch management, and I can send that over and get those remediated in there. Otherwise, I'd have to just export some of the CVEs and import that into an on-premise product if that's what you have as far as Ivanti goes. I can create tickets from here as well. If I wanted to create a ticket, I just have to pick the appropriate solution that I've got, and then I can tag that information, give it an SLA date, all that good stuff. As far as the workflows go, if I need to do some sort of compensating control and accept this risk, so say I don't have, the vendor doesn't have a patch for this particular one, we're just going to authorize it for now, and we'll just check in 30 days to see if the vendor has something. Then I've got a way to basically close that finding for now, and then come back and look at that information later. It will pop up at 30 days and say, checking in, make sure that we've got a new patch for it. So, and of course I can document all the information that I wanted to document in here, and we'll track that as well. Other things, of course, we can do tags, which can be automated or manually on the fly, that kind of thing. If you've got an Ivanti on-premise solution and you're looking to prioritize some of the patch management, I can export out this information that's prioritized and just grab in just the CVE data, and this will create that a CSV file that can be imported into that Ivanti patch management product. Okay, let's see. Playbooks. So automation wise, we can just create these different playbooks to do different aspects of what you want to do. So as information comes in, you can tell it to add to a specific group if it applies to a specific Windows host, or a Linux host applies, it would appropriate it to the particular Linux group as well. Okay, and you can be notified by email as that happens. And then on the SLA side, same kind of thing. So we've got some different SLA dashboard, or not dashboards, some workbooks here. So I can assign them different tolerances. And so this is kind of the grid breakdown of how this particular one set up. So this is pretty aggressive. So any high critical assets that has a critical vulnerability, we're going to give it a 1-day SLA. But then further down, if it's low asset criticality, low risk, we're going to give it 60 days. So you can focus in on the important asset and the important filter to give you those appropriate SLAs. Okay. In fact, I'm going to edit one of these and show you. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Well, let me edit these. I might not have access to those. That might be a problem. Anyway, what you can do is you can go in and you can actually change the change whether it's a standard or accelerated, or just a customize this particular grid, so that it's to tailor it to specifically what you want to change it to. So rather than being just a 1 critical, this might be a 7 days for a critical and a 5 type of thing. Okay, SLA dashboards. This is the last one here. So similar in nature, we've got the KPIs across the top that we can change and modify. I can see at a glance, where my remediation efforts are in conjunction to the actual threat filters and whether things are closed or overdue. I can look at the organization level and see the number of findings, overdue, that kind of thing. Okay. And then just a different way of seeing the data, looking at the different threat filters when things are coming up to being due on the SLA side, and then also a calendar here. So I can see if I have some that are going to be due in the next few days or next week, then I've got that visibility into seeing, and just like the other aspects, there'll be a number down here I can click on and go and look and see where those are. But then, of course, we utilize our existing groups, so we can see the groups that I've got from that group dashboard, those scores and findings, and I can see where they are as far as overdue nature, that kind of thing. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so a few of the questions that I came up with. We didn't see any questions that came in for this particular session, but some of the questions that I usually get from customers is, does this replace my existing scanner, or is there a built-in scanner that I could use to replace my existing scanner? And this doesn't replace your existing scanner. So like I mentioned in the beginning slides, we use your existing scanners to pull that data in. We do have a managed service that we can provide, if you wanted to look into that, to replace an existing scanner, but it doesn't necessarily replace those. So most customers that I talk to, they keep their existing scanners, and then, because they have all those groups set up, they have all the tagging set up, they like the information that comes out of it. They're just using this RBVM tool to further prioritize and track findings and SLAs and that kind of thing. Okay. One of the questions Felix asked was about the CVSS and the VRR difference. So thank you for asking that. And then the last question I had was on, is this an on-premise tool or a hosted tool? And this is a hosted solution, so it's not something that you can host yourself. But we do host it in the AWS Gov Cloud, so it is in a secure environment, and we just provide you access to that, your own data and information from the tool. So it is siloed and scoped out, so you only have access to your own information that you can utilize and integrate with. Was there another question?
Yeah, Derek, there's one in the chat.
You have to import data to a ticketing system.
So do you have, I'm going to go ahead so that it's on the recording. So it says, do you have to import Ivanti data to a ticketing system, say ServiceNow, before you can create the tickets from Neurons?
You don't have to import the data, because we're actually using the integrations from the different ticketing systems. And so if you configure the ServiceNow API connection to pull that data in, it's pulling it in for you, and we're just creating that finding for you with your existing information you have in ServiceNow. So you don't have to necessarily create anything. We're just integrating with your existing ServiceNow to create that ticket for you.
And then Felix has a question. He has his hands up.
Go ahead, Felix.
Go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, I have seen on the website that you are integrating with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint as an EDR solution. Are you planning on integrating other EDR solutions in the near future?
Yeah, so we do take requests from customers. So if you've got a specific solution that you want to integrate with RBVM, then yes, we would take that in and have other customers vote on it and add that in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, looks like Gary's got a question. Is there a way to look up a CVE information even if it hasn't been detected in your environment? Yes. So we do have, like we talked about, the vulnerability knowledge base dashboard. So we can look up existing CVEs that may not be present in, your environment. If I clicked on one of these CVEs, then I've got the information that I've pulled up, that CVSS score, the different threats, the different information from the different sources, the vector. So even if you don't have something in your environment, you could use this vulnerability knowledge base to pull that information up. And a lot of times we will pull that up when, I see a new CVE coming out. I'll pop it into the search and, just look it up to see what I have in my little test environment to see if it's applicable to that. Well, Shannon, that's all I have for you today.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you, Derek. I just want to thank everyone for joining the call this morning. And again, the recording and the summary of all the questions will be on our innovators community, which you can, I'll put the link in the chat. So when they are posted, probably, hopefully, by the end of the week, it may run into next week. So, but be on the lookout for that. The link is in the chat where you can go out and join the innovators community and look for that. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.